Do you think you know how to master your mind? Be prepared for some brand new insights in this detailed overview of the mental quadrant of the cosmic clock. Welcome to video 3 of this video series, which is all about the mental quadrant of the cosmic clock. The mental quadrant of the cosmic clock is also known as the air quadrant, since it has to do with the mind. Think of the mind as the airy quality of thought that moves as the wind, as Elizabeth Clare Prophet put it. Air is associated with the Holy Spirit. Elizabeth explains, and so we go from our experience in air and in the wind and make the translation to God as a moving spirit. And then with our inner senses of the soul, we begin to experience a new dimension, a new vibration of God corresponding to that air element. So another way to think about the mental quadrant is as the spring quadrant. And in the spring, the snows melt and beautiful flowers come to life again. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Let's see what's happening on the 3 lines of this quadrant of the cosmic clock. The 3 o'clock line is the line of Aries, God control. According to Elizabeth Clare Prophet, this is the test of the divine ego versus the human ego, the opportunity to transmute the human ego and develop the divine ego, which is your own real self, the Christ self as it represents the I Am presence. It sounds beautiful to embody the divine ego, doesn't it? Aries is a fire sign in the air quadrant. That sounds interesting considering that fire cannot burn without air. In the Predict Your Future book, it says, the season of spring and the testings of the planetary body that come with Aries correspond to the element of the mind. It is the time of the new birth, the resurrection fires that come with Aries. Something interesting that I have noticed about this line is that ideas that are born in the etheric quadrant are implemented and executed on this line. Every time the moon is in Aries or I am on this line in one cycle or another, I feel the great urge to get things done no matter what. It's very interesting. I also know a couple of people whose sun sign is in Aries, and most of them are drivers. As I said, they get stuff done. But here's the catch. In their drive to get things done, Aries can roll right over other people and leave a lot of hurt feelings in their wake. That's where God control comes in. God control is different from human control. In human control, we use our ego and our willpower to get what we want, even if it means riding roughshod over other people. God control is the opposite. It is the ability to be in full control of ourselves by letting our higher self guide us in our actions and decisions. In that mode, we remain sensitive to other people's feelings and needs. Because we are tuned to a higher source, we're able to find and apply divine solutions to our issue or problem and bring about win-win outcomes that bless everyone involved. So whenever we're on the Aries line of the clock, we need to exercise a lot of caution and discernment to see if we're acting from our ego state or from a higher, more holistic perspective. All right, let's look at the misqualifications of this line. Conceit, deceit, arrogance, and ego. Conceit makes people express how great and awesome they are. They are the true stars of the world. They are most important. Deceit is all about deceiving or lying. You pretend to be what you are not, or maybe you sell something off low value for a high price by deceiving others, and therefore lying to them. Arrogance makes people think and feel like they are better than the rest of the world. They are above everybody else. And then there's the human ego. The Christ is the true ego of all, the divine ego. On the line of Aries and Taurus, we see the pirate form as a typical perversion of rebellion and the ego that is going to do its own thing. Arrogance, taking the gain of others, not being willing to submit to the law of karma, the law of initiation. This is the human ego, uncontrolled, unbridled, in place of the Christ consciousness. Okay, last but not least, let's take a look at the hierarchy of the 3 o'clock line, the great cosmic being Helios, who is known as the sun god and the logos, the word, the originating power of our solar system. Elizabeth Clare Prophet writes, the 3 o'clock line is presided over by Helios and the great central sun messengers, focusing the quality of God control, which they amplify by the power of the great central sun magnet. This magnet is the God control of the flow of life through us, the flow of the energy of the logos, which is the quality we must outpicture under the hierarchy of Aries. Helios and his twin flame Vesta ensole the consciousness of the sun of our solar system. They sponsor the evolutions of this solar system from the spiritual sun behind the sun. They receive and step down the light from that sun, making it accessible to the various life waves of the planets in our solar system. Under the initiations of Helios, we are meant to outpicture the control of the flow of life through us, the flow of the energy of the logos, the word. Okay, we've now come to the 4 o'clock line, Taurus and God obedience. Elizabeth Clare Prophet says, obedience requires a certain amount of experience. There is nothing to be obedient to unless you have power or energy. There is no reason to be obedient to God unless you understand His love and love Him so much that you want to conform to His laws. Obedience doesn't mean saying yes sir or no sir. Making ourselves congruent with the patterns of time and space, the patterns of the atom, the patterns of being. The Old Testament patriarch Abraham is one of the best examples of God obedience. He obeyed when God told him to build an altar in which he must sacrifice his only son. Even though this was a very difficult test, he would have done it out of his love for God, but God stopped him at just the right moment. This is grace. This line gives us the opportunity for absolute oneness with God by obedience to His laws. There's a great security in the law of God. One is protected from all returning karma when one is on the right side of divine law and human law. Loving these laws, loving the will of God more than anything else in life and not hesitating. We can say this, but when we come to a test or something we want more than anything in this world, and God says no, are we going to love Him still? That is a test we almost face. Now that we understand what God obedience is, let's look at the misqualifications. Disobedience, stubbornness, and defiance of the law. About April 21st, the sun enters the sign of Taurus. This is the 4 o'clock line in the hierarchy of Taurus is served by God obedience, beloved Godfrey, and the 7 mighty Elohim. You will see a lot of rebellion manifesting under the sign. It was under the sign that Satan fell and rebelled against the living Christ. You will notice that it is in the quadrant of the mind or the mental body. And so he fell by that satanic logic, the logic of the carnal mind that contrived a way to disobey God and still to perpetrate that this was in the law of God. You find if you watch the newspapers, listen to the news, see what is acting, that you will feel the vibration of Taurus, which is an earth sign, of human stubbornness, resisting the flow of cosmic currents and cosmic energy. Disobedience is simply allowing ourselves to get out of alignment with the inner blueprint of life that life has stored in every cell and atom and within the heart and the soul of man and woman. Human stubbornness is resisting the flow and cosmic currents and cosmic energy. Being stubborn really closes all doors to your higher self until you open them again. The last misqualification of this line is defiance of the law. That means you are aware of the right way to behave or to live, but you don't do it, or you know that something is not allowed, but you do it anyway. In either case, you refuse to obey the higher law of your being. So who's the hierarch of this critical line on the clock? On the 4 o'clock line under the hierarchy of Taurus is God obedience, the ascended master Godfrey, whose mastery of the flame of obedience makes him eminently qualified to deliver to us the flame of God obedience and to give us the initiations of love under the hierarchy of Taurus. Godfrey was embodied as Guy Ballard. He and his wife Edna were messengers of the Great White Brotherhood. They founded the I Am movement and brought Saint Germain's teachings on the I Am presence to the world in the 1930s. But before that life, Godfrey also has lived as George Washington, one of the greatest heroes of the American Revolution and the first president of the United States. In both of these lives, he was guided by Saint Germain and demonstrated how divine obedience could lead to great things for himself and for the nation. This brings us to the 5 o'clock line, the line of God wisdom, that's associated with the sign of Gemini. Gemini is an air sign. This is the first time that we have the same element twice in a quadrant, an air sign in the air quadrant. This makes it very interesting to pass through this line. God wisdom means that we are able to receive the clear directions of our higher self and learn from them and act on them. The inner meaning of the word wisdom is wise dominion. So the task here is to learn how to be wise and how we take dominion over our lives and over the world around us, according to our highest and best understanding of the divine law. The misqualifications on this line are envy, jealousy, and ignorance of the law. As you know, envy and jealousy are very common in our society. People look at others and notice that they have more or that what they have is better and become envious of these things. They become jealous of other people's husbands or wives or the lives they lead. The grass is always greener on the other side, isn't it? Ignorance of the law means that you either don't know that a law exists or that you totally ignore it and act as if it doesn't exist. But both of these attitudes don't protect you from building up karma on this line and eventually having to pay off that karma. The hierarch of this line is the Ascended Master El Morya. He's one of the founding adepts of the Theosophical Society and also played a major role in the establishment of the Summit Lighthouse. It was El Morya who brought the message of the Great White Brotherhood to Mark Prophet in 1958 and directed him to found the Summit Lighthouse. During his many embodiments on Earth, El Morya outpictures a great devotion to the will of God. El Morya teaches the attainment of the Gemini mind, achieving the wisdom or illumination necessary for obedience to the holy will of God, for taking dominion in the earth planes, for the rule of the self, for the resolution of all division within the personality and the alignment of the four lower bodies that have been separated by centuries of misuse. He outpictures the attributes of courage, forthrightness, self-reliance, and initiative. The mental quadrant and its line are super interesting, don't you agree? I can promise you that the emotional quadrant that we will look at in the next video will be even more interesting. It's all about our emotions, which influence such a big part of our lives. Lots to learn when we get there. Thanks for watching and have a great Violet Flame day.